Welcome back to the Fitness Formula Podcast. I'm your host, Jake. Today we got Allyson here with us. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Allyson, or otherwise known as Allie to my friends.
Right. Kind of what's your experience? What are you doing right now?
Well, I am a certified personal trainer. I'm currently with Lifetime Fitness, probably for the foreseeable future. And then, of course, working on like my own type of like side training, just kind of helping people live healthier lives.
What do you mean by that? What is that venture?
I would like to do more virtual training. So
Right.
just keeping people connected, whether it's through an app or video.
Yeah.
Because I know it's not always easy to have someone local, especially if you like someone and they're maybe a state or two away. So, yeah.
Do you like Trainerize? Like, if you were to do that virtually, would you stick with Trainerize?
I would. I
Yeah.
didn't like it at first.
Yeah.
I hated it.
I think it's one of those things with like any app. It's just like after you use it for a while, you kind of like know how to get around like the bad parts.
Yeah.
And, like, the good parts are still good.
Yeah. No, I love it now because I actually do my programming for my mom and my sister. I kind of made them get like a membership.
Nice.
And then I like do their programming on there too. So, and then I do my own, like I kind of have like my own demo client and I track my own program through there and it makes it super easy. So yeah, I've grown to love it now.
That's nice. I've heard you've been doing pretty well.
Yeah, finally.
Right.
It took a minute.
Have you continued to grow your business during these kind of tougher months for trainers?
I love to learn. So I'm never scared to like see if someone is doing better or well or has more experience. I will just like somewhat latch on and just be like, listen, like the best way you can explain it, like what can I learn from you? Like what do I need to know? So I never want to feel like I know everything. There's always room. So just kind of I don't want to be the best in my group. If you're the best in your group, you're not growing. So I like to have people who are better around me so then I can constantly just improve.
Who are you kind of learning most from right now, or who are you drawing most from?
A lot from my team. So I have David Freeman, of course. Bryce Morris has been I can be difficult. I ask a lot of questions, some of the same questions, not the smartest questions. And they're just so patient. And then, of course, Angela and Megan, they're so patient with me. And they just know how to break it down to where, like, in different ways. Like, they each have their niche.
Right.
So learning from people from different backgrounds who come from different parts of the world just, like, it helps so much. I think that's why I am where I am because of them.
Right.
Oh, and Jessica, big shout out to Jessica. She's just I love her because you always need that person who just shoots straight from the hip and doesn't sugarcoat.
Yeah.
And more of those are the better. So she's definitely. Honestly, once I got under her, I just kind of propelled.
Right. Starting out, you kind of mentioned it was a little bit of a struggle. What sort of obstacles did you face, and how did you overcome those?
I overthink everything.
Yeah.
I still do that.
Yeah.
I do that in everything. Relationships, life. I overcomplicate it. And then once I was kind of trained myself to simplify, like even with clients and training, keep it simple.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. And
Push,
it just,
pull, hinge legs.
and then like with big goals, make smaller ones. And then it'll just be like a domino effect. Those just start. One's going to start taking out the other. And then the next thing, you know, your big goal's halfway through and you're just like, oh, I didn't realize I was this close.
Right. What big goals did you kind of have to complete in 2022?
Just survive.
Yeah.
Just to survive. 2021 and 2020 were rough.
Right.
So 2022, I was just like, from month to month. It was month to month. I wouldn't even think about like the next 6 months. I just wanted to make it to the next week.
Right.
So yeah, it's just, yeah.
When did your business start to uptick, and was there anything you were doing differently or anything to, I guess, stand out?
I would say 6 or 7 months
Into it.
Okay. I think when I got into it, I was a little social, and I think I just overthought a lot.
And you say social in the sense like you were over social, like you weren't like focused on your craft as much.
The ADHD was on 10. And then I cared too much about superiors. Sometimes if they've done it for so long, they want you to do it their way because they think that's how it works.
No.
And you can't do someone else's way. It's
Exactly.
never going to work. You're going to fail. You can take bits and pieces and apply it and like turn it into your own. But I was so just discouraged. And then finally, when I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just be me, and I'll do it my way. And I'd rather crash and burn my way, and then do it your way and do it the right way, and then be mediocre.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I was doing. I was mediocre doing it their way, and then I was like, F it. I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
And it just flourished beautifully.
What parts of you kind of came out after that you kind of feel like was like, I'm here, I've arrived, like this is me?
I think I'm more confident to speak out against a lot of things. Like I'm just like
that ain't right.
Yeah, I'm like I have another opinion.
Yeah.
and I mean I think it's a little relieving for some of them, and I think the group too, because a lot of people were scared to speak out and stressed, and just to see someone who they saw struggle and then now do so well. And then I try to stay humble. I try to take what I learned and help them apply it, and just like don't do it just be you, and you're gonna attract what works for you. And so I think just being like leaning in to me.
You don't have to give an example, but is there an example you can kind of give us where you did kind of like speak out like, oh, that's wrong, or like this isn't?
There were so many. There was one I got so mad I cried, and like the manager one of them were like, oh, I made you cry. And I'm like, you didn't make me cry.
You didn't make me cry.
I forget the fact that I couldn't express what I wanted to, because I felt like there was an incident with a client, not a bad one, but I love to communicate with my clients. And they're human. Like they're people just like all of us. Like I don't ever want them to feel, I want them to prioritize their health, of course, but I know life happens. Kids go to college, they have, their partners have health
We're basically,
issues.
Not basically, but we
We're
can be therapists. Yeah,
we are a luxury.
Exactly.
A luxury that can help you stay alive a little longer, but at the end of the day, like when life comes crashing and the rent's due and the water's due and all this is due, you're going to cut the training. Like if it's pay for your car or pay for training, as much as you know you need to stay healthy, you'll get back to it. You'll be able to get back to it. So I think I was discussing that with someone, and I told them like, hey, this person had to leave because X, Y, Z, and they cut me off and said I talked to them, and they basically proved the exact point I had, but they just wanted to say it first, and I just like pounded the table and was just like. Yeah, so that was that was kind of my breaking point of being like, you know what, like knowing, you can't ask everybody for help,
right? Because
then they're gonna feel like they somewhat own part of your business.
Yeah, that is frustrating.
And then they're gonna and some people will take credit for your growth, and I don't think that's fair. So learning that was just you can't, and don't. It's kind of like our bosses become our parents, and in a good way. They have good reasoning, but it's like they become our parents at 30, and with my mom at 30, I still don't tell her everything. Yeah. So you can't tell your manager everything. Oh, no. And I think even with the business, you have to learn like, all right, this I can just keep under my hat.
Right. With people canceling, times have been like kind of tough these past 4 or 5 months. Do you have a strategy or an approach of like maybe to cut them back to virtual? Because I always found that kind of awkward. And I know like we were kind of told that like if they're paying such and such for training, they can afford this. It's like.
Well, I've been blessed. Is this wood? I've been blessed with amazing. I love I don't have one client that I don't love. Like wow. They've been in for like the long haul. I think a few of my clients are coming up on a year, which is really cool. And then some are new. I focus on building a good relationship and really understanding them where they don't want to cancel. They would do everything. And if something happens where they have to, I had one, they had a severe injury, like the kid broke his clavicle. But I stay in touch with his mom regularly and talk to them regularly. And, as soon as they get cleared by the doctor, they come back. So just keeping, like letting them, like if they need to downgrade, like if it's a 2-3 weeker, going to 1 day, but then I up their virtual. So it's like I make sure I'm hitting them up more than I would to see them in person, so they still feel that presence. So if I have someone 2 days a week, we still talk throughout the week, but just if they have to go down, I'm on your body a little bit. Yeah. But then just letting them I don't want them to seem like, the pressure of the money, because then if you're money hungry, the people sense it. Right. You can't fake it. Yeah. They'll sense if you're disingenuine, and it'll be a turnoff. So I think building that, going back to the rapport, I think I've built such a good rapport with them that I think they like a lot of them, they're like, oh, I don't want to mess up your pay. And I'm like, don't
yeah.
even
Don't worry about that. Yeah.
You are hospitalized right
Right,
now.
yeah.
Don't even worry about that.
Yeah.
So just kind of being human helps.
Do you have any go-to questions that kind of helps build that rapport, that build that buy-in, or build that deeper relationship?
I try to let it happen naturally. So I kind of keep up with their day, and then while they're training, it does turn into therapy sessions.
Right.
So they love that I remember to ask about like their kids or a parent, or if there's a certain situation, like I have certain clients, we love to share our just chaotic dating stories.
Yeah.
So
the dating stories.
next time I see him, it's almost like we get excited to be like, oh my God,
here's
we
the
can't wait to
tea.
tell you
Yeah.
what happened to me last week. There's like things that'll happen to me that I'm like, I cannot wait till he comes in because he's going to just
He's
die.
gonna freak, yeah.
And then same thing, he's just like, oh my God, I couldn't wait till Tuesday to tell you this. So it's always nice to have it just grow naturally and just like kind of torture them while I train. Like while we therapize, I'm like torturing them through training. And they're like, oh, we're actually working out. But I'm like, you know,
we're just gonna talk the whole time.
Yeah, we're just having therapy in between like 90 seconds of rest.
Do you feel like a lot of those conversation skills you were able to bring over from membership sales?
Yeah. Also having a background in communication studies and psychology. One of my favorite things I studied was interpersonal communication and like rhetorical theory and just breaking down communication in every aspect and learning how to communicate in different situations with different people in different relationships. I'm such a nerd. I would like just apply every kind of case study I had to even my family, like helping me communicate with my family.
Right.
I think that was a huge help in sales, and then that also crossed over into training for sure.
What do you feel like the two most important things are when it comes to communication?
Listening to understand and not listening to respond.
Right.
People get in their own way. Because especially when emotions are just up there and then they're so ready in an argument, which is when that incident happened with the individual where I just like kind of pounded the desk in frustration, cried. I felt that they were listening to, they thought I was listening to respond and then, but they were. So they just seeing that how they projected it was very frustrating. And then that kind of goes into the second where knowing that don't take it personal. So when they are communicating, you have to understand this person, projection happens a lot. We all project. Even if you're great at communicating, we all project. So understanding where projection is coming from, knowing it's not personal, and to try to not get defensive. And then even if they do hit a nerve, keep your power and keep your head, because they want to hit a nerve. And hit dogs will holler. And so you just have to like kind of grit and bear it, and then you'll always if you try to do it right, you'll always come out clean. Right. So I mean, even if it comes off like them having the last laugh, it's like in the long run you'll have it, because they'll win that battle, but you'll win the war. Right. So just kind of,
it is very difficult sometimes to recognize that this person in front of you has like their whole other, a whole other life, you know? And so it's like, they're going through things, and like you said, it's not always personal, you don't know what else is going on in their days to make them, act or react that way.
Yeah. They have different backgrounds, they have different upbringings. Some of them, like I grew up on the East Coast, they grew up on the West Coast, so even that is like a difference in communicating, like where I've been called lots of B words, brass, blunt. Yeah. The other one. Yeah. But really, it's just, I mean, like I said, I'm a product of my environment.
Yeah. I would imagine it's really different between sales, membership sales, and personal training, because like you said, you don't want to come off too salesy. Did you find that to be a harder transition, and did you have to change your approach in any way?
Yes and no. I would say yes, because with the membership side, it's almost like I was never like this. I was trained to almost be like this, but just me personally, I love to keep connections. So if I see someone, I always try to like, oh hi, like did you hit your goal yet? Yeah. But with sales, it's almost like, all right, they're in, like okay, like off you go. But like with PT, that connection has to stay like it has to almost like where, okay, so here's a good example. When you do membership sales, you connect them, and then they're kind of off, but you're connected to them because you say hi when they come in, or they remember their goals. So when they get excited, they like, oh my god, I gained 7 pounds of muscle. Like it's like that, but like with PT, it almost has to be more in depth. Like okay, you connected them, but now it's like you have to go deeper and stay like connected.
Right.
Where it's like it can't be surface like it would be like, oh, just hi in the grocery store.
Yeah. Have you had? I know starting out, it was a challenge for everybody, I think. Have you had any relationships strained, or are there any like mistakes that you've made that you kind of have learned from or wish you could take back?
I don't think, honestly, now, no, because, okay, well, not with my current employer.
Right.
So I was at the Lifetime on the East Coast. I would say I took a lot of what I learned there, and I think I applied it well here. There was regret there because I was way too open and friendly with people.
Oh yeah.
And they did not have good intentions, and people really befriended me to pretty much just take me down and like be part of a downfall. And I think allowing myself to be talked to a certain way and treated a certain way, and just honestly caring about too many opinions. And so going into this, I came in ironically very business minded. I was like, I'm moving across the country, but it's straight business from here. Like, and ironically, everybody's so sweet. It became like a family like that. So I'm just like, oh,
yeah, that's Texas.
But but like, also, there are some where I have met that I'm like, oh, like I see ounces of what I saw in the past. Yeah, and like I mean, it's tough to say. I barely keep it friendly because I don't want you to get confused and get any closer. Yeah. It's happened. Yeah,
I think our team was really good at that. It was like the really surprising thing because I was nervous about that too. Like it being PT, it being sales, thought it was gonna be super competitive. It was actually super friendly. Yeah. But I mean, obviously you had a bad experience at one of your past jobs. I don't know. I guess talk through that a little bit more because I know I used to have a problem with like almost oversharing at work, and I think that's a hard boundary for a lot of people to draw. Like, this is work. Yeah. Do your thing, get out, and people will, kind of climb on your back to get to the top.
Yeah. At the age we're at, though, we spend, some of us, like, even whether you're married or not, we almost spend more time with our coworkers and our partners in our home. Right. So that oversharing becomes natural, and you break down those walls. And I think I went from corporate, where it was very just. And then I worked into the corporate gym, I guess, and it was so nice. Right. And that's where those walls came down, and I just, we hung out outside of work and talked in work, and then I definitely think there was definitely jealousy. Not much that I cared for because I always believe in whatever's for you will find you. So there's no need to scratch and pull and bite to like get to something somebody else has because you can get it, but it might not fit. Right. And so with that other job, I think just kind of seeing it, but then giving them too much benefit of the doubt. Yeah. And being like,
you got to know when to close it off, when to cut it off.
And I had been warned, kind of. I was one of the only females in the sales, so it was me and like 2 other males. And so, of course, they played the game of, we're going to show you the ropes, like big bro and unk. And then it's like, well, we can do this, but you can't. But then I saw my sales take a hit, and I'm just like, well, one, with this company will know every T you cross and every I you dot. Yeah. So you don't want to do anything like sneaky with this. And I wouldn't want that on my conscience anyway. But I think like certain people would do that. And I'm just like, listen, if it takes 2 of my units, it's going to keep HR from knocking at my door. So it is what it is. But then it became like the social thing where I'm good at building relationships and some people weren't. And I think other people became jealous of that. And, they wanted the attention that I didn't really care for. So I think that's where the negative experience came from. So I was like, time to go. Yeah.
To sort of transition that over to PT, do you feel like, I mean, probably part of it was because you weren't being yourself at first, but do you feel like that sometimes there could be either like prejudice from, either other coworkers or potential clients based off your appearance or your gender?
Absolutely. Yeah. Boy, we just talked about this too, because we've had a few meetings. And in the fitness world, whether is it this job or the next or online, there's always that like, and that was honestly part of the reason why I delayed being a PT for so long. I should have been a PT 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I had the sports background. I was very competitive. I was very strong, and just there, if you weren't like a petite blonde, or had this certain build, or you know, talked a certain way, walked a certain way, had like as a woman having like 14% body fat.
Right.
You if you didn't work out in a sports bra, you didn't fit the mold. And
Exactly.
I'm just at this point. At a certain point, I was like, I'm not going to be unhappy to fit someone else's beauty standards. Like, I know I'm fit. I know I'm intelligent.
Right.
I feel like I look great.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I've had the compliments. So if I could base it even off that. And then luckily I'm in a place where the demographic is pretty mixed. But
Right.
I've been in demographics where they weren't.
Right.
And I have had, and I recognize I do have a privilege to an extent, but I've also had instances where people would not want anything to do with me because of my race and how I looked and came off. So I was just, again, with those, I don't want any business from people like that anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, okay.
Right. Let me see here. What is your approach to your session delivery / programming? I know you like to keep it simple, you said.
Yeah. So with Trainer Lines, we're lucky to have somewhat of like format build, but I like to go in. I have like a whole book and sketch sheet of like all of the notes for my clients, and then just talking to them throughout their session, like, hey, we're coming up on week 8. Like, what are your I'm always asking them what their new goals are, and I'm paying attention to their movement. I have my one guy, we're coming up on a year of training, and I went from training him to now his whole family.
Nice.
And he's former military, just older, had a lot of trouble with just basic movement. So I started with the basics, and then now he went from not even be able to do a plank, and he just cranked like 4 sets of 20 push-ups the other day.
Dang.
And so just seeing that, I know like, okay, like what do you want to work on next? Now that you're moving better, where can? So just keeping tabs with them regularly, so it doesn't feel to them like, oh, she's like, kind like she's cool, but she's still kind of like a robot.
Right.
And then with I'm a nerd, so I love programming. Like anything where I can just, I want an excuse to go find a cool cafe to go sit in and just have the ideas kind of flow. So the programming, once I stopped overthinking that, and again, making it simple, it's a lot of people don't move. So getting them to move in general, like you can't do all the cool things with a barbell if you don't do a lunge properly, if you can't squat properly, if your core is not engaged, or you don't even know how to engage your core in the first place.
Exactly.
So just having fun with that, and like having people do like a box step up, and they're like, oh, I couldn't do that before. Like getting the excitement there. So just really, I like that it can be simple.
Mm-hmm. How, or if so, do you differentiate the training between your men and women clients?
I try not to.
Right. Yeah.
Because I think I don't believe in the whole girl push-up thing.
Right. Yeah.
Ironically, I have a lot of my women have better form than the men.
I don't think that's a coincidence.
I do. Yeah. The deadlift on my female clients I'm like, I have to do very minor cueing than I do with the men.
With that,
but I think it goes back to, I was in the weight rooms with the football coaches, and they, you train 15 years in the military and the coaches, and they don't teach you form like that.
And this is another generalization, but I have much more men clients that do not ask why the hell we're doing something or why we're doing, but the women do tend to be a little bit more interested and actually invested in the movement, why they're doing it, and they kind of want to know the why, and they can actually perform it a lot better.
I think that's true too. Women are a little more open to asking the questions, where men they kind of want to seem like they know. Yeah. They're like, oh, I know that. I knew that.
I'm just picking it up. Obviously, I know how to do this.
Especially if you're a female trainer.
Yeah.
But again, luckily, I have a lot of male clients, and they are literally like, hey, you're the boss. So that's kind of cool to like. I was worried about that actually coming into this field of being like, these people ain't gonna listen to me. They're like, who is this girl? Like trying to tell me how to deadlift. But yeah, they're pretty good about it.
Did you break through that initial like kind of imposter syndrome, or that initial like how did you start to gain that confidence and be like, I'm the boss, we're running it this way?
Yeah, I literally had to just train myself to stop caring.
Yes.
Because I'm just like, one, I know I'm not I'm not the average female. I don't even like to say I'm like not the average female, but you have to like recognize what you can bring to the table and like how good you are, and not being like the woe was me, well I can't. And I have to realize like I've done a lot of things other people haven't done yet that could be twice my age. And so I have to see the beauty in that, and like just if I can't appreciate that, how is anybody else going to?
Exactly. And I think once when you start trusting in your knowledge a lot more, it's so much more rewarding. And once when you start like kind of putting together, like you said, those simple programs, but they are effective, you can just carry that out to more and more people.
Yeah. It also helped when, one of our close friends, Megan, who is probably one of the most intelligent trainers I have ever come across. Like she's so good. It's like, so I think when I impressed her with certain things, and she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna take that," I'm just like, "Okay."
There you go. Yeah, that's like okay, the best compliment you could get.
She's done it. She's been in the game for so long, and then she was OT and just so good with just the minor things, and then just to have her even be impressed or even be like, "Hey, I took one of your workouts. I thought it was really cool how you did this and XYZ and cued that," and I'm just like, or even Bryce, like one time. He was shadowing one of my alphas, and he was like, "Oh, I like the way you cue that. I'm gonna." And he's also another.
Cues are big. I feel like.
He's also another one of the smartest trainers, and just so good with people, and just even having him kind of be like, "Oh, I'm gonna take that." Was just like, Bryce Morris is gonna use my example. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you have any, I guess, advice, or what would be like kind of top 3 bullet points for females starting out, getting into the gym, or just starting a fitness journey in general?
I wish there was more than 3, but the top 3,
as many as you want.
Yeah. The top 3 would just be really appreciate and invest in yourself, because when you do that, other people are going to start, like, you have to start with yourself before, because it goes back to if you don't treat yourself well, how are others going to? Right. So not, like I said, for me, don't not do something because you think you don't fit the part. Forget all that and stop comparing. The comparison game it'll kill your career. It'll kill your dreams. Comparison is a killer to an extent. Yeah. So, and I still get caught up because there's favoritism in the workplace.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you have to really get to know yourself to where, listen, they might be a favorite, but I wouldn't want to be them. Because the steps I had to go through and take, and what I had to go through and take to be me, I don't think there was another person who could survive it the way I could have. I really don't. Right. And then second, just you can't care too much. Yeah. Don't let people who might be jealous or they try to kind of put out your light get to you. Right. It's okay to have a guard up. Have a bit of a guard up, where and don't let anyone make you feel uncomfortable. That's the main thing. Yeah. Like, make them uncomfortable make them uncomfortable before you make yourself.
By how confident.
You are. Yeah. Don't sacrifice your comfortableness.
It's almost like your space. Like don't shrink yourself down. It's almost like that Coach Carter movie.
Yeah.
Don't shrink yourself down to make other people feel comfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Go there, take as much space as you want, be polite, but you're there for a reason and a goal.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then the third, have fun.
Yeah.
You have to enjoy it. And then the best advice I got was like, your passion is your paycheck.
Right.
And it took me a little minute, because it's like, I was trying to force it. And then when I really just let go and really just enjoyed what I did, it just rocketed up there. So you're like, be passionate about it. The little things, whether it's like the nutrition or the small things where it's like you had a client who could barely walk up steps that's now doing like lunges. Right. So just really show your passion, and everything you're gonna start attracting the success. So and patience. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah. Patience is the biggest thing, because it could take a year.
Right.
6 months is great, but it could take a year.
When do you start to sort of see any difference? Because what would your timelines be between like feeling it, seeing it, and then like being changed?
If you're disciplined, I think it's like the 4 week, 6 week, 8 week.
Right.
Or like even if it's like 4 weeks, or what is it, 6, 8, 12?
Yeah.
One of those. Like and it could be 4, 6, 8 or 6, 8, 12 weeks, depending on like if you're disciplined and getting your sleep, recovery, right nutrition. limiting the alcohol.
Yes.
And don't be too strict. I go by the 80-20.
Right.
Unless you're competing, you should not be doing anything other than like the 80-20.
Exactly.
Because it could just get unhealthy.
Right. And explain what that is, the 80-20.
Oh, the 80-20. So being 80% like disciplined and 20% just kind of having like a cheat day, a cheat meal, a cheat drink.
Yeah.
And like as a woman, we get our cravings during that certain time, and it's so hard. And if you get too strict, you binge. So just if you have a craving, kind of just like go for it, but don't let it take over. Go for it for like even if it's the day.
It's almost like the same thing where it's like you're feeling that feeling for a reason. Like own it. Like be moderate about it, but own it, do it, and then move on. Don't beat yourself up over it.
Yeah, don't beat yourself. Don't try to out-train your calories. I say one of the best things I did, because I've had an eating disorder in the past, was just making sure I got my water in. Like I'm not like, waterboarding myself, but I make sure that I'm like, listen, if I did have a soda, I'm making sure I have enough water throughout the day. I'm getting sleep, or if I had a soda, I'm making sure I'm not maybe having alcohol the next week or anything like that. Or if I have dinner, if I have an alcoholic drink, I'm not getting dessert, so kind of just keeping it balanced, like, and have what you want, but don't go too crazy. But I used to have a rule of like, for every 10 no's, give yourself a yes. So from the grocery store, I'm what do they call it?
Like a hungry shopper?
I'm a hungry shopper, or like what did my friend called me the other day? Like it's like an impulse buyer.
Oh, okay.
I'm an impulse shopper.
Yeah.
And so I would say for every I'm like, ooh, cookies, no. Oh, chips, no, okay, no. Now I'm not saying every 10 no's in the store.
Yeah.
But for every 10 no's at a certain amount of time, give yourself a yes.
Right.
So it's like if you buy that pack of cookies, stretch them out like Oreos. I mean, come here, I can clear a sleeve in a night. However, knowing that, just be like, listen, they're not going anywhere. Have 4 today, none tomorrow, maybe 4 the next day.
Yeah.
And then just make sure you're hitting your water mark, like drinking, what is it, like half your weight in water or something,
ounces,
like, whatever.
Something like that.
But yeah, just life is short. You got to enjoy it. So don't put yourself into, a mental illness or like a eating disorder, trying to be an example, hit your goals, or look to fit a certain aesthetic, and stay off the internet.
Yeah, that's a big one. Social media it's kind of the same thing you were talking about, but it's just like that comparison.
Yeah.
It just destroys you.
It gets frustrating because a lot of times you have people who have not even stepped foot in, they don't even have a certification, and they're saying, like, I saw something the other day that made me want to just
cringe,
scream. And they were just like, I see this in the fitness industry a lot. They have no fitness background. They said, you shouldn't work. It's hard to work core because you won't see it. So just make sure you lower your body fat percentage. She's like, I don't work core because I'm not at a certain body percentage now. And I'm like,
no, yeah.
Just stop. And the thing that got me frustrated with that was the amount of people being like, yes, queen.
Yes, queen.
And
I'm
just like, no. I literally snapped my back because I didn't have a strong core. It's more than aesthetic. And then I'll be a nerd for a second. There's the local core muscles and the global core muscles.
Right.
The global is the outside. I think globally is outside. That's where you see the aesthetic 6-pack, 8-pack, what have you. The local is literally what supports your spine during a deadlift, a squat, a front squat. Like, yes, it might not be aesthetically pleasing, but it's going to help you from being in a wheelchair or crutches. Right. So, like, forget the aesthetic. Build your healthy core. Yes, it's made in the kitchen. You lose the body fat, but please still work on core. Right. If I can tell anybody anything, still do core.
Yeah. You gave some really good points there. Kind of more practical, though. What do you have your sister and mom doing? Like, are there any, like, sort of daily steps or what's their intake look like? Do you have anything that they're doing specifically?
So my mom is diabetic. She went through really bad health scares. Like we were expected not to have her after a certain period.
Oh, wow.
And then she my grandfather, they're just superhumans, and they just fight through it and make it. So with her eating more healthy, because back in the day, she grew up in the age where, I only ate twice today. That's a good, no. That's not a good diet. You're diabetic. I need you to,
they have like,
and I'm just crackers. Like, I do this even for myself, like especially on road trips and throughout the day. If you spike your blood sugar, you're going to crash and feel tired. If you eat under, your blood sugar is going to bottom out. You're going to feel tired. It's going to take forever to build you up. Eat to level out your blood sugar so you'll feel fine. Right. And then, of course, like the more level it is, the more you'll be able to kind of just get used to that and then function better and then rely less on medications, hopefully. So just with her being more conscious of her eating, because she's very busy. She's a travel nurse. So she'll get so busy with her stuff that she'll forget to eat. And I'm like, and then she'll get to a point where she'll bottom out to where she literally won't be able to talk, or she won't even be able to comprehend a sentence. Like over Christmas, she had a moment like that where she just was not herself. And she's like, I need to eat. I'm like, oh, that's the problem. I thought I was going to have to like call the White Jackets.
Right, yeah.
And then for my sister, she had 2 babies. Well, one's older now, and then she had a baby recently. And then she was an athlete and just for a while stopped prioritizing her health. So her is more building confidence. So luckily she's been going to the gym, and she gets excited about, telling me I went to the gym today. And, I'm sending her meditations and playlists to put for her workout. So hers is just getting her to move. And I want to work on form better with her. So hopefully we'll be able to do some videos and stuff. I got to get better at filming myself. So if I can film myself and send her things to show her. But just with my mom, my mom loves Lifetime. So I got her a membership. And so she can go to any Lifetime in the country. So that's pretty cool. And then when she can't get to one, she's in Kentucky. So good luck. Brom, build one in Kentucky. If there's not already
in
one.
That market. I'm sure it's just packed full of cash, just ready to go.
Build one in a barn. I don't care. Just put one there. But she... that's the blessing with the app and technology now too. If you go to Hotel Gym or like whatever, you can just, there's always things you can find. So with her, I just want her to keep moving, because my mom too is they're both results driven. If their clothes are tighter, if they don't feel great, their confidence is down, and then they just beat themselves up. So my mom, for health, like I literally want her around 20 more years. I need 120 more years. I'll claim that. And then my sister too, if she can live 200 more years, that'd be pretty cool. Just around for their kids, around, to feel better, and no more scares, please. So just making sure they eat the right things and on time.
Well, I think that's important, and it's simple, but it's not spoken enough. But food is literally energy. Like it's what makes you. And so don't be afraid to eat. Obviously, like do your research, get a nice balanced diet, but eat enough just in the first place, because that's what's going to keep you going.
The good thing is it trickles down to the kids, because one thing, my sister's so good, and my sister and my other sister too, and my brother-in-law is excellent about this. He's very like homeopathic and organic, and drinks teas, and the kids, instead of juice, he gives them they'll have flavored water, so they don't even crave soda.
Didn't you tell me he tells them it's juice or something?
Yeah. And then we get those Zevias. Oh, they love. Oh my gosh. So they're like, can I have a soda? And their soda is a Zevia. They're obsessed with Zevia, and that's it's my favorite in the whole wide world, because, and I think that came from us growing up. My parents would buy us 1 or 3 liter per kid, and we had to make it last. And that was our sweet treat, or 1 box of cereal, and we had to. And once yours ran out, I mean, you could discuss it. So that's kind of how we learn to negotiate. You can negotiate with your siblings of can I get a cup? But once yours is done, you don't drink anybody. If you want the orange, you get the orange. You're not drinking the grape, because that's your sister's. And so I think that was the trickle down, and I think my sisters now kind of being the motivation for them. With their kids, they don't just feed them Pop-Tarts. They don't just give them sodas. They make sure my niece drinks so much water. And I think that's why her kids, they're just the healthiest kids. They're so smart. And I think that helps too, with the foods they eat.
Oh, for sure.
My sister they eat well-balanced foods, and they're some of the smartest. Sometimes the stuff that comes out of their mouth, I'm like.
Well, it's if you're having migraines or any brain fog, the first thing you need to check is your water intake and your diet.
Yeah. Sugar will eat your brain alive.
Talked on it a little bit. You don't have to go too deep, but how did you kind of fix your relationship with the food? How did you get to a healthier point with that?
It's still an everyday thing. I think I do better when I calculate, when I nerd out on stuff and make it a project, or make it a homework or an assignment. And then I'm also results driven too. So if I see myself being disciplined, and then seeing the result of okay, my clothes are fitting better, I'm feeling better, I'm doing my supplements more, my skin is clear. So that helps. And then still allowing myself to have a cookie. And then instead of the sodas, I've never been too much of a soda drinker, but I love a Zevia. I will buy a case of those, and then just still make sure I drink my water. For water, sometimes intake can be hard and tedious. I'll buy myself a cute water bottle that I can't wait, with a straw. So I know that if it has a straw, I will have no issue drinking it.
And it has this little motivational, like.
Yeah, and it's cute. It's cheetah print and gold, and just I get to, it matches the outfit. So cute things there, and then just again, results. I like to feel good. I like to look good. I compare myself to myself. Like I'll look at pictures and be like, oh, why did I hate that? Why did I think I needed to lose weight then when I wish I looked like that now? Right. So getting to a point where I appreciate the now.
That's big.
We forget.
Big. Yeah.
Ooh, we forget. Because then you'll look at pictures and you're like, oh my God, I should have appreciated me then.
Right.
So appreciating the now and the growth in that, and it just, because then you won't have too many slip ups. So I think the food thing's every day, because I actually recently stopped drinking alcohol. So I don't drink alcohol at all anymore.
That's good.
Probably for the indefinite future. I realized it got to a point where it was a coping mechanism. And then I probably started drinking the most I have out of my life. With football season, I was drinking 6 days a week. I went from drinking a glass a night to a bottle. And it just lowers your vibration. It lowers your recovery. I'm working my butt off building all this muscle and just killing it with just I'm doing all this lifting, and I didn't look like it because I was drinking.
Right.
And so I didn't need to. It wasn't like I needed it to have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I get a little bit of social anxiety, but I think just having a good support group and knowing to go to certain places with certain people help. Right. Because if you got your buds with you, you're good.
Yeah.
Knowing when to leave, you're like, you know what, I'm done with this. I can, knowing when to leave the party helps. But I've had
New Year's. I went to bed at like 9:30.
Oh yeah, me too. I literally went and got like Genghis Grill. Yeah. It's just interesting. It's just raw meat sitting out in the open. It's delicious. Yeah. But I went and got like Genghis. I worked that whole day. Got Genghis Grill. Turned on like a Netflix movie and just like FaceTime the kids, and just I was actually so relieved to just be at home and not out. And I've had New Year's is tough. It's actually the anniversary of my nephew's passing today, so that kind of deters me from just, it's a reflection. Like I like to kind of take the time to sit home, meditate, reflect on the year, on the growth. I set goals, but I like to move with the seasons. So, I don't like to do the New Year's resolution. Like things are still dying and we're still in the dead of winter. Yeah. So I like to kind of have that come when the spring comes, when the first bloom is.
When it gets warm.
Yeah. When that happens.
Then we'll start.
Yeah. That's when I'm like, okay, now it's time to start something. So now I'm just kind of shedding the skin, shedding the bad habits. Right. And then coming up with an approach, but then kind of getting to that when the blooms come out. Right. But yeah, I think the alcohol's helped, because when I drink alcohol, I didn't eat great, because then I'm having the burger and the fries and the ranch, and then, oh, you guys want a nap? You guys want queso? I'm like, knowing darn well I shouldn't have any queso. Yeah. So yeah.
What were you sort of like coping, I guess, against? Was it like pressure, stress from work?
Yeah, I think it was a lot. I think when I first moved here, it was literally like
a shit show.
I like drained my savings, got kicked out of my apartment. My car got totaled. I almost got killed in a car accident, all within like 6 months. And it's like, I love it here. And people are
never going back.
People are like, what? I'm like, but despite all of that, I still was like, this was the best decision I've ever made.
Wow.
My life's imploding. But I think it was just because for the first time in 32 years, I lived for myself. I come from a big family, and I'm a middle child. So everything I did was for someone else. I had a live-in boyfriend. Everything I did was for them during COVID, which was a nightmare. 10 out of 10 don't recommend. No. And I just, for the first time, I made a decision of just like, I don't care who this affects. I want to do this. Everything else, the people who are going to stay, they're going to stay. Like obviously the family and the kids. Leaving the kids was the hardest thing, because my siblings, I know they would be fine. My youngest sister, I was a little worried about. She was very kind of distraught with me leaving. But the kids were just, because they were like every Sunday, Sunday dinners with the babies, and just not wanting to miss a moment. I was there at all of their births and all of their birthdays. So just not wanting to miss a moment, but also appreciating building something for myself, because I do want to get married and have my own kids and my own company and my own career, which I love right now. So I think with the alcohol, I think it was just where I was at was, I finally got to a point where I leveled out. Like I finally am in a good apartment, got another car, work is going great. And then I think I was lonely, like missing the relationship. Because I'm like, okay, now I'm ready. Where are they at?
Where are they at?
And then it's like, I've had a couple of bad stints of meeting people, and I'm just like, the frustration of, oh my God, I did so much to learn from my past mistakes. Why am I still dealing with the same issue?
Right.
And then I think once I realized, I'm like, oh, because you keep allowing it. So the alcohol was just like, all right, clear your head. Stop doing that. You know, like, and it's kind of relieving that I'm like, you start to see now where you start to, like, it's gotten a lot better, but still being conscious of not allowing the same behaviors.
Right.
I think I was just coping with like either just being lonely or just having it there to just not, you didn't want to feel.
Right.
So.
I think loneliness is a very tough one. That's one I struggle with a lot. And I think a very powerful thing is, you know, if I were to ask anyone, you know, what are some things that you know you shouldn't be doing that you could stop doing? They would come up with a list, 5, 10 things that they know they could instantly stop doing.
Yep.
And if they were to just do the things on those lists, well, now a few more things start popping up because your head gets a little bit clearer and you can more easily just knock stuff off, and now you're just stuck with it.
You're like, now that I think of it.
Exactly, right.
Yeah, I think I have to stop trying to control certain things too. Because I try to control when to meet a person, when to do this, and it's just like it's always when you're not thinking about it, and then it happens is when it feels best. Like when it came to training, I wanted to be successful. I saw you and Megan, and I'm like, you guys picked up so quickly, and I'm like, oh my God, and when I just hyper focused to the point to where I almost, it almost like backfired.
Yeah, because it was the same thing where it's like, what are they doing? What are they doing?
Yeah. And so once I was just like, whatever. And I noticed the pattern. You got to notice the pattern too, because like if I lost a client, I would gain 2 or 3. So. And
now you're stuck with all
ones
you love.
I know.
So those ones
walk
out the door.
So now it's like when, you know, I told Kyle this too, because Kyle's amazing. He's another one who's just so smart and got such a good heart, and he's so young, and he wants to be so good that he'll overthink it. And I said, don't do that. I said, you do exactly what I did. And you know, he used to beat himself up for like losing a client. I'm like, dude, count your blessings. Right. Because not that I didn't love the clients I lost, I still have some that I'm hoping they come back, because like I love them and I want them to feel better and do better. Yeah. But that's their path, and their path is directing them that way. Yeah. So if their path directs them to me, I'm open for it. I hope I'm open for it.
Right.
But I can't control where, because again, they opened up a spot for somebody who might have needed it more.
Right. Well, it's a crazy thing with training, because it is a two-way street. It's like if you're, I can't help you if you're not willing, and you know, vice versa. We're just not on the same kind of wavelegth. And
I tell people that too. Finding clients is like finding a boyfriend. It's seriously like dating.
Yeah.
And I wish I was as good at dating as I was at training. Guys, it would be so good.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I am. Maybe I am now. Who knows? Right. But I think. It's the same thing. I'll do like, you know, the onboarding sessions or the consultations where you kind of scout. You scout them as much as they scout you.
Right.
And I think one thing I love is that I've placed a lot of good people with like you or Megan that I see that you guys still have relationships with. And I'm like, I'm so glad that I wasn't just selfish and was just like, ooh, I want this. Because it would have been detrimental to them
100%.
And myself. And I think if you onboard someone or get to know someone and you're like, oh, they don't want to train with me. Maybe they didn't like me. No, they might do better with someone else.
Same thing, don't take it personal.
Yeah, don't take it personal. And I think now that I look at all my clients that I have, I love that, like, we just work.
Yes.
And it's like, I've had a client where I had to force it, and it was terrible. And I put them with someone else, and they just flirt with somebody else, and I'm like,
that's just the way it is. Yeah.
Like it was not great.
Yeah.
That was the only one. Yeah. I was the first time I almost had to like fire a client that I'm like, this is. Like, I'm leaving a session wanting to like quit.
Yeah, and that's how you know.
I was just like, you almost make me hate what I do.
Right,
this
and
should not happen.
We love our jobs. So
yeah, and they had the mentality of like, well, I'm paying you, so I own you, and I'm like,
oof, don't start with that.
Pass, ma'am.
Yeah, you can go own someone else.
I'm like, I immediately was like, get someone else to do it.
Yeah.
No.
I know you said you don't like to set, you know, strict like New Year's resolutions, but do you have any sort of overarching goals, any big goals for 2023?
I think I want to continue on this path of just growth. It's so crazy. My goal was to hit 14K by the end of the year.
Yeah.
and I hit it. Like I checked Friday, and I was like, "This is insane."
That's amazing.
Like I struggled so much, and I know 14K. Like if people know the business of where we're in, like 14K is a benchmark.
Oh yeah.
A month. We're not talking 14K a year. We're talking 14K a month, like 14K a month. And I almost couldn't believe it, because at first I was like at 12, and I'm like, oh, I hope I hit 13. And then we got the email, and then I was at 13. I'm like, oh, I'm at 13. Okay, well, maybe if I have 2 days left, I can hit 14. And I think I just had another sale drop. And I looked on Friday right before the year ended.
Yeah.
And I was at 14, and I was like, all right. So I think my goal is to just keep the train going. I don't want to get distracted. I think I'm on a good path. So just staying focused, staying rooted, letting God lead me, and I think that helps with the alcohol thing. Cutting the alcohol is going to keep me connected. I'm making sure I get my meditation in, my prayer in, showing up at church more. David Freeman, you're welcome. He keeps bugging me to be in person. So I love doing it at home, because it's like I get to make coffee and pancakes and just watch my church from my TV. But I understand the beauty of being present. So having that goal of being more present, which could help me meet people. Right. But and I want to help others. So I do want to get above 14K. Yeah. That'd be great. My goal is to maybe in a year grand open another club as maybe an assisting manager. Yeah. Las Colinas, wink, wink. But I'm glad that's a way out, because I'm enjoying being frontline.
100%.
And so just helping my team be successful.
And it's almost easier to help your team on the front line than being in a manager's position, because even Angela's in like a different scenario where she was like front line but you know. It's
tough. And then I would like to lose 15 pounds. I know it's just, and 15 pounds on me would look like 30. So you know. But yeah, I think I'm starting the year in such a great place. Yeah. I don't want to stay. I want to get better. And I know, like, one of the best quotes I've heard was like, nothing lasts forever. Like, the bad days don't last forever. Even the good ones don't. So just appreciate. I think it was Tom Hanks who said that. It was awesome. I was just like,
it's in the Bible. This too shall pass.
This too shall pass. Yeah. And that was my best friend's mom was amazing. She was so calm and peaceful, and she literally had it tattooed on her. And this too shall pass. And there's times where I think because of my best friend's tattoo, I always think of like, this too shall pass.
And also what I had to learn is like, that means for the good times too.
Yeah.
So this too shall pass. So it doesn't mean, but be ready.
Be present. Be present. To me, I have a thing where one of my pet peeves with a friend of mine is he always had his phone in his hand. I'd be in the middle of a conversation, and you don't know if I could say something that could change your life, and you just, and I'm like, you don't put that thing down. I'm gonna throw it out of the. So I try that with myself. Like when I go back home with the kids, I'll put my phone face down in like another room. Right. And I'm learning to do that more, because we're on our phones, especially with trainers. We're always like, now we're tapping into the online folk, and being present, we rush. We're so excited for the holidays, and then we blink and they're gone. Yeah. So just soaking in every minute of the day, I think, with the good times, because again, that too shall pass.
Exactly.
So you don't want to miss a moment, and don't wish it away. Yeah. So yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's all we got for this Fitness Formula podcast. Thank you all for listening. You want to say anything?
I think we said it all.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Sweet.